In 2014, Pope Francis skipped the Football World Cup final. He did not watch his native Argentina play Germany because he wanted to stay neutral, or so he said. But neutrality is far from what the Pope practices. Politics is more like it. When it comes to his messages and activities, the Pope has chosen sides, and he has chosen sides after a lot of calculation. Guess whose side is the Pope on? China. The pontiff recently skipped a reference to Hong Kong in his Sunday address just so that Beijing is not offended.
What does China have on Pope Francis? Question is a rather inappropriate one, but the Pope's politics does not leave us with much choice. Here's some context. 2 months ago, China decided to remove crosses from its churches. This was Beijing's crusade against Christianity. But Pope Francis, the Supreme Pontiff, the chief pastor of the worldwide Catholic Church, remained silent. Flashback to November 2019. Pope Francis was on a tour of Asian countries. He sent a note of greeting to Taiwan and Hong Kong while flying over them. Not a word on issues that could offend Beijing. Hong Kong was overwhelmed with protests in June 2019. 2 students from the city reached out to the Pope. They sought his help in protesting the extradition bill. The Pope, known for his activism, did not take sides, at least not openly. Critics say he quietly sides with Beijing. The Pope has a silent understanding with Beijing. No pun intended. He often denounces the West for border control, but maintains silence on the Uyghur genocide. He has prayed for people's recovery from the Wuhan virus, but never questioned its origin. And now he's given new proof of his bias. Pope Francis edited Hong Kong from his Sunday address. The original transcript had a paragraph on the new security law and the Pope's concern for the city's religious freedom, but he chose to steer clear. He did not read it. So back to the question, what does China have on the Pope? Nothing. But China is an opportunity for Pope Francis to strike the biggest goal of his career by solving a 70-year-old crisis. Beijing and the Vatican have had a rather bumpy relationship. The Vatican supports Taiwan. In 1951, Beijing severed its ties with the Vatican. China established its own church. For decades now, the Catholics in China have been split between 2 churches, a state-controlled church with bishops selected by Beijing and an underground church which continues to be loyal to the Vatican. The Vatican and Beijing clashed over the right to appoint bishops, a privilege that is enjoyed by the Vatican. The 2 sides reached a landmark agreement in September 2018. Beijing agreed to give the Vatican a final say, but China would keep the rights for vetting the pool of bishops. This agreement expires in September. Pope Francis has an opportunity to strike a better agreement with Beijing and strike his career goal by repairing ties between the Vatican and China. Or the Pope could disappoint China and lose out on even the existing agreement. Pope Francis has chosen his game. When it comes to China, the pontiff would pick self over service. That is the Pope's politics. Bureau Report, WION. World is One.